Hi, it's Hazel. A lot of things going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. For one thing, I'm going to start with Javier Bardem, who recently wrote a court document defending Johnny in the lawsuit, that where Johnny Depp is suing Amber Heard for defamation of character after she had an op-ed printed in the Washington Post in late 2018. And here it goes. I'm just going to read to you what Javier said about Johnny, which is really pretty amazing and pretty telling. He says, "I love Johnny. He has always been a true gentleman and an extremely generous and caring friend to my family and myself." He goes on to say, "On top of that, I've had the gift of working with him twice and have experienced his respectful attitude towards every single member of the crew alongside his unique and hilarious sense of humor." Now, anybody who doesn't know who Javier Bardem is, he's an actor and he's been in a lot of movies, and he was in Dead Men Tell No Tales with Johnny. He played Salazar, Captain Salazar. And then he was in a movie with Johnny back in the year 2000, Before Night Falls. So he goes on to say, "I stand by Johnny because I have always seen and felt a true caring and loving man in him, an extraordinary and unique artist who has listened to anyone who needed his help. I not only love Johnny, but respect him deeply, and I thank him for being the free and careless little boy he is in his art, and the mature and loving man he is in the lives of others, always there when we need him." Bardem added, "I love Johnny because he is a good human being, trapped in the lies and manipulations of toxic beings, and yet smiling and loving us all in spite of it. How? Through his music, through his acting, through his silence. This means a lot. Thank you, Johnny. Millions of others like me love you deeply." His silence. Now, Amber Heard was on the set of Dead Men Tell No Tales a lot, and apparently she and Johnny were fighting a lot. And this was reported in several newspapers in 2015. So she was banned from the set of Dead Men Tell No Tales because the fights were really ugly. So Javier probably saw a lot of things going down. He probably saw a lot of how she treated him. Maybe he even saw some physical violence by her. But there's a reason he says manipulations of toxic beings. She is a toxic person, and she did manipulate the whole thing, and she's manipulating the public. You all know about that. I've been talking about it forever. So, but then through his silence, Johnny was silent about the whole thing. He didn't talk about it. It's difficult for men to talk about these things. It's difficult for women too, but it's difficult for men when they're being abused by a woman. Because men are not taken seriously enough. They tend to be dismissed. Oh, she's a little woman, that kind of thing. It can be very difficult and very shaming and very humiliating, so. But Javier probably saw a lot of things going down with Amber because, he was there on the set, everybody was there. They knew what was going on. So, yeah. So it's a good document. I'm glad he spoke up. The next thing I wanted to discuss was Elon Musk. Apparently, Amber, that's being brought up as she had an affair with Elon Musk. It started about a month into her marriage with Johnny Depp. She started having Elon over at their penthouse where Johnny actually owned the penthouse and they both lived there. So Elon would go to visit her late at night while Johnny was in Australia filming Pirates. And I'll just read to you what was said by the witnesses at the Eastern Columbia building who testified this. Let me just find it here. Security guards had previously gone on record to state that Musk visited Heard on multiple occasions before and after she filed for divorce in May 2016. Eastern Columbia Building employees reportedly testified that Heard had Musk as a late-night guest at Mr. Depp's penthouse. Only one calendar month after Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were married, while Mr. Depp was out of the country filming in March 2015, Eastern Columbia Building personnel testified that Ms. Heard received Musk late at night at Mr. Depp's penthouse, according to court documents. Specifically, Ms. Heard asked staff at the Eastern Columbia Building to give her, quote, friend Elon access to the building's parking garage and the penthouse elevator late at night. And they testified that they did so. Building staff would then see Ms. Heard's friend Elon leaving the building the next morning. Security guards at the building said Musk visited Heard on multiple occasions, both before and after she filed for divorce in May of 2016. I will link this article that I'm reading from below, as well as the article about Javier Bardem. Musk's spokesperson said that the couple's relationship didn't become romantic until some time later than May 2016. Yeah, right. The SpaceX CEO wasn't the only celebrity that Heard invited to Depp's penthouse. She also had James Franco. They both took the elevator and they had their heads down, but we were able to figure out that it was James Franco that was in that elevator with her. This was, the surveillance video got this on May 22nd, 2016. There is a moment where Amber goes into the elevator with her right side of her face exposed. No bruises. Nothing at all. Even though the previous night, May 21st, 2016, was supposed to be the night Johnny threw a phone in her face and was hitting her and, pulling her hair and all that other shit. So this picture came out with Amber cozying up to Elon Musk in a swimsuit with a towel wrapped around her. And God knows when this was taken. This was probably taken very early into her relationship with Johnny. I'll just show you the picture if you can see it up here. That's her in the white. She's cozying up, and that's Elon Musk in the dark colored clothes. And she's cozying up to him. She's just walking up to him and cozying up there. So, yep, abusers will do anything. Abusers, you can tell an abuser by the way they treat people, by the way they treat the ones they're married to, by the way they treat people they're working with, and just people in general. It's all over Amber. It's all over her. It's the affair with Elon Musk. All the trouble she caused at every movie set that Johnny was on. I'll bet you there are people that saw things that may not have said anything, but they saw things, and they may not have mentioned it or anything like that because maybe they didn't think it was appropriate, but they saw what they saw. I mean, I'm only guessing that Javier Bardem might have seen some stuff go down. I mean, for all we know, he probably walked away. They had arguments. Johnny and Amber had arguments on the set of Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. And who knows who saw these arguments, and who knows how bad they got. But my guess is a lot of people did see it. So anyway, all this is important, even though some people may think it's not important. Some people might say, well, who cares if Amber Heard slept with Elon Musk? I I mean, who cares? This has nothing to do with domestic violence. Well, domestic violence is not just physical violence. Domestic violence is, violence against somebody isn't limited to physical violence. I saw a video by somebody named PIERRE, whom I really, really think is a very intelligent young man. And he said something like psychological manipulation or psychological abuse is a lot like psychological violence. That's how he worded it. Psychological violence. And that is manipulation, gaslighting, basically narcissistic abuse, which is what I talk about in here. So that can be like violence. It's just psychological. It's not physical. But here's Johnny having, no idea that Amber had an affair with Elon Musk. She's having Elon Musk come to the penthouse while Johnny is away filming. And he stays overnight. I mean, come on. So, yeah, I just wanted to cover those two things. But the really incredibly awesome news is, Amber's lawyers had filed a demurrer. They tried to get the case dismissed. The case where Johnny's suing Amber, they tried to get that case dismissed. But they lost the bid to do that. In addition to trying to get it dismissed, they also mentioned that there was a statute of limitations as far as suing somebody for things they said. But they were going back to 2016. The op-ed was written in 2018, and Johnny first filed suit in 2019. So he was well within specifications. He was well within the statute of limitations. That's the right word. So anyway, so here we go. There were four statements. There were four statements that I'll look for right now. In fact, I'm going to go there right now. Judge White narrowed it down to four statements that came from Amber's op-ed. Four statements that could be considered defamatory. Hang on a minute. I'm just going to try to find these statements so I can read them. But the first one is, let me see. Oh, here we go. Okay. Hang on. My phone is being weird. Okay. The first statement that he took from the op-ed that Johnny, there were four statements that Johnny's team submitted as defamatory. The first one was the title. Amber Heard, I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change. That's the first statement. Second statement, then 2 years ago, I became a public figure representing domestic abuse and felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. Number 3, I had the rare vantage point of seeing in real time how institutions protect men accused of abuse. All three of those statements, the judge ruled as possibly defamatory, and therefore the case would go on. The fourth statement, which Amber said, I write this as a woman who had to change my phone number weekly because I was getting death threats. For months, I rarely left the apartment, and when I did, I was pursued by camera drones and photographers on foot, on motorcycles and in cars. Tabloid outlets that posted pictures of me spun them in a negative light. I felt as though I was on trial in the court of public opinion, and my life and livelihood depended on myriad judgments far beyond my control. The judge ruled that as not necessarily defamatory because, it was just mostly opinions and personal experiences and things like that. It doesn't mention having accused somebody or anything like that. So that particular statement was sustained in her demurrer or her motion to dismiss. And like I said, the statute of limitations, there is no problem with the statute of limitations, because Johnny wasn't talking about merely what she said in 2016. He was talking about the op-ed where she referred to things she said in 2016. So that was a republication. I think that's what the judge means by that. So it was a very well written opinion letter by the judge. He researched a lot before he came up with this decision, and it was well worth waiting for. And now I'm going to go, here we go. I'm going to find Adam Waldman's statement about this, entire thing. Yes, Adam Waldman, Depp's main lawyer for this whole case, said this: "Today's court ruling speaks for itself. Roberta Kaplan's suggestion..." Oh, let me read Roberta Kaplan's statement first, because it's entertaining. This is what she said after the decision. She said, "Today's decision leaves it to a jury to decide the meaning of Ms. Heard's op-ed and the truth of what she said. As we have said, the courts have strong mechanisms in place for determining the truth. Here we remain confident that Ms. Heard will prevail at trial when the jury is presented with evidence on the question that the court identified, namely, whether Ms. Heard was abused by Mr. Depp." So that was Roberta's statement. Here's Adam Waldman's statement. "Today's court ruling speaks for itself. Roberta Kaplan's suggestion that losing their own motion to dismiss was what they had planned all along also speaks for itself. As for Amber Heard's mythical evidence that Ms. Kaplan confidently cites, we and reality both look forward to seeing it." Guy's a rock star, I kid you not. Anyway, so Amber Heard is being exposed for the entire abuser that she is. Domestic abuse also includes emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is definitely part of having an affair. Having an affair with another man while you're married is emotional abuse. And everything that happened on the Pirates set, she would talk to him like he was a child. Everywhere, there are people that have said that about her. She would talk down to him all the time. And in front of people. That's emotional abuse too. This whole thing is not only proving that Johnny Depp never abused her, but it was the other way around. She abused him. And more people are seeing that now. In fact, there was an article suggesting that Warner Brothers is really considering either firing Amber from the next Aquaman or reducing her role significantly. Reducing her time on screen. I hope that she gets fired. I hope that we never hear from her again after a while. She's run her course. She had the media and the world by its tail for this long, for 4 years, and now her goose is coming out of the oven. It's time for her to pay the piper. Amber Heard is a narcissistic abuser, a malignant narcissistic abuser, who abused Johnny in all ways narcissists abuse their victims, including physically. But the gaslighting, the emotional abuse, everything that she said in her, in those audio tapes, where she would berate him, where she would belittle him by saying things like, "Oh, I know you want to live in a land or in a world where people are always saying yes to you and nobody ever finds fault with you." That is exactly what she wanted. She wanted to live in a world where people said yes to her all the time and did anything she wanted them to do. The gaslighting is what really can mess somebody up, and she's gaslighted the public for this long. Everything that she did to Johnny, she claimed happened to her in some form or another. She's gaslighted the public and the media for this long, and it's time to stop. It's time for her to be brought to justice. Thank you for listening. My name is Hazel. I will be back.